Hello and welcome to the channel. This is Jackass Retro. My name is Matt, and this video is the first in a series that I've titled Selling Postcards 101. And the reason why I decided to make this series is I get a lot of questions on some of the videos that I put out. I do put out twice a week what sold videos for just postcards. That's all I talk about is just the postcards that sold over a 3-day or 4-day period, sometimes a little longer. And a lot of people come in, they ask, what are my postcards worth? What do you do to title a postcard or figure out the value or just, do I sell my postcards in a lot or sell them individually? I can't answer every question for every seller, but I can answer some of the questions and let you know a little bit about my journey. And how it all started was a few years ago, I heard a podcast called Scavenger Life. Some of you may have probably heard it if you're in the reseller world. And they had a guest on Popeye's Postcards who was talking about all different kinds of postcards. And, one of the things they talked about was real photo postcards. And I was like, wow, that sounds cool. I wonder if I could find some of those. Well, I spent the next year or so just sort of buying postcards whenever I ran across them and never really listing them. I had, by the time summer of 2020 rolled around, I had maybe listed, I don't know, less than 500 postcards in my eBay store over the course of, a year. I probably had around 10,000 postcards in my back stock that I hadn't touched. I ran across an album when I was visiting a friend in August of 2020, and it was a postcard album at an antique gallery. And opened it up, had some just amazing images and amazing postcards, and I really just got very, very fascinated and interested in it. And it really had sparked the interest in postcards that, re-sparked that interest in postcards that I had found on that podcast. But this time I had it in my hand. So I got back home and I started listing the what was in the postcard album, and was just amazed at some of the money I was getting for some of them. And, when I was finished with the album, I started dipping into my back stock. Now, keep in mind, this is only around August of 2020 when I started listing postcards in earnest. Since that time, I list practically every single day. I list postcards 20 at least, sometimes more, sometimes a lot more every single day. So since 2020, I've grown my listed postcard inventory to over 10,000 cards in my store. And you can do that too. It's a great way to sort of build on an already existing business, have a item that's easy to store, easy to ship, easy to list, that can sell consistently over time once you sort of learn the ins and outs of it. So I created this video to help you do just that. Hopefully we can get you enough to get out there, to know how to source, to know how to list, buy, price postcards, and we'll get right into it. So we're going to take a look here, and this is going to be a little bit PowerPointy, but for this one, we've titled it Selling Postcards 101. And this is really what you need to know. So I'm going to go ahead and move this to full screen. This was me. I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing. I don't want nothing. So I'm perfectly happy. Well, you know what? Maybe that's you too. You're in the reseller world. You're happy in your niche. You don't need to branch out. Or maybe you're like me and you're always looking for something new, something interesting, something cool that you can add to your store. And if you are, let's go on. So like most things in the reselling, there's some basics. One, you got to be interested in what you're selling. If you're not interested in what you're selling, it's going to be a grind, right? You have to understand your why. Why are you selling this, right? Why is this something that you're interested in? If your why is, hey, I can find them at low cost and sell them at a good profit, hey, that's often good enough. But I think that if you have something a little bit more where you can have a vested interest, an actual personal interest in something, you're going to be a lot more successful because you can be fascinated and learn something new. If you're fascinated with the process of learning, then keep on going. You're going to be successful if you can learn the niche and get educated. We're going to go over this a little bit more moving forward. You really have to understand a long tail sell-through rate and what a lower cost item. This is different from a lot of different other categories and niches, and there's some things you got to be prepared for. To be successful, you're going to need to have constant activity, consistency, and some patience. You're going to have to overcome FOMO and your mess ups, and you're going to have to decide at some point if you're going to specialize or not specialize. Do you want to do just postcards or not just postcards? And these things, like I said, they apply really to any niche, postcards or anything else. So first, like I said, you got to get interested. Do you like postcards? You got to ask yourself these questions. What do you like about them? Do you collect anything, right? That's a good question, because if you do collect stuff, you're going to understand how a collector's mind works. You also might be able to find your hook into postcards, because there's crossover from postcards into just about every other niche on the planet, right? Do you like cars? Well, guess what? There's millions of automobile postcards and automobile postcards collectors. Do you like sports? Well, hey, that's another one. Do you like art? Do you like travel? All of these things can be your hook into the postcard collecting, just like it's the same hook into postcard collecting as it is for many other collectors. And of course, what's your why? My why? One, I like the holding a piece of history in my hand. I get to learn something new about the world, about art, about many, many different things with a little piece of cardboard. It's a window to another world that you can hold in your hands. It's something an NFT is never going to give you. So for you, just ask yourself what is your why? Why is this something that is interesting to you? And what is the hook that can get you to move forward into it? Very important to get inspired about it once you've got your hook and to learn your niche. I would say to be most successful is to dedicate yourself to becoming an expert, even if you never become one, right? Do everything you can to seek out, find reference information, find your resources. YouTube has great resources for other people selling postcards. There's websites that provide all kinds of information and good reference material for researching postcards. There are books, encyclopedias. You can ask people at postcard shows. And very important, ask those who you can find who have knowledge in these areas. Ask them for help. Most people are going to be more than willing to help you out. I've been doing a morning live shipping show. There's a number of postcard sellers who pop in there from time to time. People always have some questions. They ask it in the chat, and we always are happy to help out. So seek out those resources that you can use to help you educate yourself on your journey. The next thing that I think it's important to understand about the postcard niche and reselling postcards is you have to understand long tail, long game, and sell-through rate. Time of making this video, there's about 6 million postcards listed on eBay, 500,000 sold in the last 90 days. That's just with a simple search of postcard. Now, that's less than a 10% sell-through rate over a 90-day period. There are a lot of sellers who would look at that and say, nope, not interested. Well, postcards are a different sort of niche, right? They're a collectible. There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of them out in the world. One thing that's nice about them is they're small. You can have a lot of them in stock and not be in a rush to get them sold. And that's important as well, to have that patience, to let the right buyer come find it and it sells when it sells, not being in a hurry. But building the consistent sales takes time and work, and lots of it. I mentioned earlier in the video, I list somewhere between 20 to 50 postcards every single day, on top of the other things that I list as well. Some days I list as many as 100, but I do it every single day. Even when I'm on vacation, I make sure that I have some of the resources that I need to even get some up. Now, sounds crazy, right? 30 a day. It's easy to list them, though. I can list postcards in a few minutes a piece. If they require research, well, it might take a little bit longer. But in a future video, we're going to go over some of the things that we can help you do to help speed up the research portion of it. Also, results and consistent sales takes time and work and diligence and consistency. You can't just put up 100 postcards, expect a bunch of them to sell, and then call it done, right? You might sell a few right away, but if you're looking for consistent sales, it takes consistent listing and consistent growing of a store. So let's move on to our next. There are some huge benefits to selling in this niche. You can source in bulk. There are a huge number of places where you can source postcards. Antique malls, right off of eBay, auctions, online auctions, flea markets. They're all over. Once you start into this niche and looking around and becoming familiar with some of the places and marketplaces where you can source, there's a lot of them. And you can source in bulk cheaply. All right. Your cost of goods is going to be so low, it's crazy. Like most postcards that I sell in my store, my cost of goods averages way less than $1, usually right in the range of 5 cents to 25 cents. The bigger bulk you can buy, the lower your cost of goods are going to be. The good news is you can list them quickly and in quantity, right? You often find a single postcard, you might find 20 of the same kind. You know what? Even if you're going to sell that for not much money, you can do a multi-quantity listing of 20 postcards if they're exactly the same. And it's very common for multiples to show up. They're easy to store because they're small. They're 5 by 3.5, or 6 by 5 3/4 by 3.5. Leave it in the comments. So you can store thousands and thousands in a relatively small amount of space. They're easy to ship. They just require eBay standard envelope or rigid envelope in some cases. The margins are amazing. A lot of resellers look for 10x their money, 20x their money. Well, how about 100x your money? How about sometimes 1,000x your money? Sometimes 10,000x your money. Return rate on postcards is incredibly small. Less than 1%, like a fraction of 1%. If you're doing your job right, you're accurately describing the cards, and you're getting it out there, you're going to have great feedback and practically no returns. And most postcard buyers leave me feedback. The rate I get positive feedback over any other niche that I sell in is astronomically greater in the postcard niche. And finally, postcards give you a chance to hold a piece of history in your hand. Every postcard tells a story. Sometimes it's the message that's on the back. Sometimes it's image on the front. And there's not a whole lot of other collectible niches that can say the same thing. You certainly can't say it about an NFT. And it's a hobby that's been around for well over 100 years. One of the largest collecting hobbies in the US and the world. So with every postcard, you're tapping into a little piece of that history. So if history and vintage items and antiques get you excited, this should as well. So that's going to be it for this one. For our next video, we will be getting into the basics of identifying the age of your postcard. So go ahead and click on to the next video. I want to thank everybody for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.